All right, so if you have been following along, then you will know that the volume of a cylinder is pi times r squared. That gets you the area of the base, and then you're going to multiply by the height to get its total volume. To find the volume of a cone, it's actually the exact same formula, but you need to take a third of it because it actually takes 3 of these to fill up a cylinder. So the question that I'm going to answer for you in the video is, how do you find the volume of a sphere? It's actually very cool and very creative how this formula was discovered. So I'm going to walk you through it, and I hope you find it as interesting as I do. So the first thing to notice is that if you were to actually fill these up with water, you'd have to find 3 objects like this that are all the same height and have the same base. So this circle is the same as this circle is the same as this circle. But if you could find 3 objects that are these shapes and these sizes, you'll actually find that it takes 3 of these to fill this up, but that these 2 together actually fill up the cylinder perfectly. It's very interesting. So if you were to fill up this cone and fill up this sphere with water, together they would fill up that cylinder perfectly. So the first thing that mathematicians discovered was that this is a third of the volume of the cylinder, but the sphere is actually 2/3 the volume of a cylinder. So let's think about that for just a second. Remember that the volume of a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. And then you're going to combine that with something to get the total volume of a cylinder. So it only makes sense that this would have to be 2/3 the volume of a cylinder. So that's the first main idea, that a cone, it takes 3 of them to make up a cylinder. It's 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. But a sphere actually is worth 2 cones, or it's 2/3 the volume of a cylinder. So first idea there, okay? So far, if we're trying to find the volume of a sphere, we know that it is 2/3 the volume of a cylinder, and we know that the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times height. So this already looks like an okay formula. We just have an issue. If you look at this sphere, let me erase these lines. If you look at this sphere, we do know the radius. We would have to measure it, but it would be right here. We do know the radius. But there's an issue here of height. So let's look at this sphere. The question is, what exactly would the height be? We would need that in order to find the volume of a sphere. And when we're given a sphere, we're usually only given the radius. So how exactly would we figure out the height? Well, here's the trick. Remember that all 3 of these are the same height as each other and also have the same bases as each other. So if I were to erase this radius, actually, if I draw a radius here instead, and then also going from the bottom of the sphere to the center, these are both radii, and they together make up the height. So the height of this cylinder is actually the same as 2 radii in the sphere. So I can go back down here, and instead of height, I'm actually going to put 2r. That is going to be the same as my height. So now look at our formula. We have 2/3 times pi times r squared times 2r. Now this formula would actually work, but it's a little messy. So let's rearrange some things. We have the volume of a sphere is equal to 2/3 times, let's put all the constants together, so 2/3 times 2, and then times pi times r squared times r. We'll put the variables at the end. Now let's do some clever, actually not that clever, it's just multiplication, but 2/3 times 2 would be 4/3. Remember, this is the same as 2/1, and then you would multiply the numerators and the denominators. And then you'd have pi, we'll just leave that there. And then if you have r squared times r, that's actually the same as r to the third. And that is actually your volume of your sphere. There is the formula. I hope that you understood this video. I think it's really cool how the formula was derived. So basically, if you have a sphere and you know what the radius is, that's all you really need. You can use this formula, plug in for the radius, and get your volume that way.